We going live?
Yes. Hi, Harshali. Welcome to Writersmelon.
Thank you
Welcome to
so much.
Author's Corner. Today we are going to talk about your new book, Paradox of Dreams, and all the books that, yes, and all the books that you have written in the Haveli series. So please jump in and tell us more about the Haveli series, the 8 or 9 books that you have planned, and the third book that you have written and got published recently. Please tell us more about your book.
So, first of all, thank you for having me. And I'm really glad to be part of this uh, platform and Author's Corner. I'm honored to be featured here and to talk to you as well. It's always nice to talk to someone who's so much in love with books, or at least as much as I am. So, I think that
Thank
common
you.
ties all of authors, writers, readers, because I don't think we can, be isolated in any or insulated for that matter in any form. Though we'd love to just sit and read
True.
books and be insulated, but I think we enjoy each other's company as well. So thank you for having me. Uh,
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So far as the Haveli series actually began, I think when I was in college, because I started as a young girl, I went to Chandni Chowk at one point of time to do something for College Fest or something, and then I saw this Haveli that was getting renovated, and I just entered. You had to bend down and enter the teal door. Um and that at that point of time it was quite dilapidated, but somehow it had such a wonderful charm and appeal. And we'd all been reading about these havelis, etc., but never had the born and brought up in South Delhi in a nuclear family. So how much can you actually see havelis, etc. So this was my first foray into actually seeing those tall pillars and chhatris and those jalis and those huge, graceful arches, etc. And every nook and corner was as if there was a story behind it. So I think somewhere it kind of there was a snapshot in my mind, and I knew that I would make this Haveli my own one day. And I think that was where the Haveli series was born. Mm. After that, and as I grew up, I was always writing, but it was never with the intent to be published or to, or to bring the stories out per se. But as a young Indian girl, and then as a woman, as a woman who was meeting a lot of people and seeing the kind of differences there are in how women and men are treated. Uh, even in the urban settings, um, I really wanted to talk about things that were kind of hidden or were always brushed under the carpet. People even today don't want to talk about it because it's something that is not very nice. And so I wanted to unveil all these, the underbelly of our society, one could call it. And that is how the Haveli series was born. When I began writing it, very frankly, it was supposed to be this beautiful romantic relationship drama that I wanted to do with a big family. But I think I realized midway that I had to tell the story of Aruna, who's the first daughter of the family, and I wanted to talk about marital rape, domestic violence, etc. And that I don't think you can do superfluously. You need to research, you need to have your facts in place. You also need to know how victims survive, how they cope, what kind of strength is required for women to come out of those circumstances. And so those kind of things, how much support is required from the family, to rally around you. So that was the first book, and that is where I realized that I cannot club this into like a Thornbirds or a tome of a book, because I don't think I would be able to do justice to so many characters. There are 7 siblings. So the first book, that's A Window to Her Dreams. This became Aruna's story. And then I wanted to talk about the second born daughter, who's Bhavya, and I'm myself a second born. So, you inevitably I've seen that, two siblings, and usually they're polar opposites. So I had to, because Aruna became this fragile tulip, who's perfect in every form or manner, but very fragile, and needs a lot of care and a lot of tending. While Bhavya was like this fiery rose who's like all over the place. She's managing to deal with her loneliness in a way where she roams around with it. There's not much she can do with it except that she goes everywhere with it. And so she takes this very uh, difficult decision. I won't say difficult, it's more of how at that point of time I was seeing that a lot of the youth was getting exposed to a lot of things that were happening outside, which may not have been essentially a part of our culture, uh, but we were absorbing a lot of that. And so there was a lot of experimentation happening. there was uh,
Could you
there
give
was
an
a lot.
example? Like, what? Could you
For
give an
example,
example?
having several relationships at a time, having
Okay.
like a sexual exploration, especially women, which was not the done thing in our society. I'm not saying
Okay.
right or just not the done thing. You never spoke about your own sexual needs or your own sexual requirements as women, and even women of my age would say, "Oh my God, what are you talking about?" and things like
Like a
that.
taboo subject. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I wanted to talk about it because we've all heard that all this happens, but it's all under locked doors, and these are the skeletons in the closet that nobody wants to see, but it's all around us. I mean, you do come to know and hear things, and everybody's cousin knows everybody who's doing it, but they don't want to be associated with it. So I wanted to talk about it and explore how these decisions eventually affect the psyche of a person who takes them. Are we ready as Indian women to accept that we have taken those decisions and deal with the consequences? So therein came Bhavya's story, that though she was very independent, she was living in Paris and had a live-in with her boss, and she goes into a threesome. Uh, but eventually, all this does play on her mind. She does come back to her family to figure out what she needs to do. And also, there is a parallel story of Noori, who's a 16th century courtesan, and her relation with the Haveli, and how there's this tome which has been created into a green area, and she finds her journal. So she's reading the journal, her own life is taking place simultaneously, and she's realizing that how women are still struggling with the same things that women were struggling in the 16th century, regarding ambition, regarding love, regarding making choices for themselves, regarding things that they want to do, and how that plays out in the societal fabric, and are they allowed to make those choices, and what all do they have to sacrifice to be able to say that no, I want this, so that becomes Bhavya's story, and that also became Anatomy of Choice. So that was the book. After that came Charu's story, and she is one character I didn't want to develop too much. I think subconsciously I wanted her to remain subdued, and she is very much a conformist who um, has an internal struggle, as a lot of people we all know in our lives, who want to have lots of friends, but once they have them around, a lot of people around, then they don't know what to do with them. So she's one of those, and she has her own issues. Plus, she's blind. She lost her sight at a certain age when she was young, and so her parents send her to her grandmother in Surat. A few threads that I had left open in the first book, I tie here, wherein from the beginning, Charu calls the Haveli Anwar. So she's Sharma, so it's a Hindu family. So everybody, a couple of people asked me that why is she calling the Haveli Anwar? There's no reason to. So that thread gets tied in this book as to why she called the Haveli Anwar. and her story. And she is also an empath. She has uh, a very strong intuitive power because of the loss of her sight, and how she tries to help locate victims as part of her SIT. And so that's the story. She meets a first love, and tries to locate his daughter who's been kidnapped. So that is the story of the third book, The Paradox of Dreams, and how dreams tie into the whole thing is because why the paradoxes is primarily because she has these dreams which are like premonitions to the cases which are coming. So she's dreaming simultaneously, but they're not pretty dreams. Like dreams has this connotation of being very sweet and nice, and you're seeing good things, but they can be nightmares. And but her dreams are also leading to her finding the victims, which is again a positive thing. So it's a double paradox if you look at it. So that was the reason why the name came about. And
Paradox of dreams.
Haveli series for now, 3 books in, and working on the fourth. So fingers
So
crossed
tell
that.
us about, yeah, so tell us about the process of your writing. I mean, do you have like a big character chart that you have in mind, that you have planned for your 9 books? Because it's quite rare for me to actually talk to an author who has actually 9 books in her head and 2 on the table. So tell me how you are planning the whole character tree or the story arc. How is your planning process like?
So I
Or
did
how
all
much
that.
you have planned already and how much you have like left to
Yes,
spontaneity while writing?
yeah, I did all that. I do have an Excel sheet. I keep, changing because the whole family is growing along with those characters that
Yeah,
I'm talking. You have Aruna, who's getting married. By the third book she has 2 children, so the growth has to be proportional to where you are or where the person that you're talking about, because the you it's a series, so you can't mess around with that, though they're all
yeah,
standalone. You can read them separately, but still, if you've read the series, that I hope that people want to pick up the other 2 once they read one of them. They shouldn't, as a reader, because if you're writing, you're also a reader, and we've all read books that don't match. You say, oh, this is not making any sense, how did this happen? And so I, as a writer, I didn't want a reader to do that for my books. I wanted everything to be very linear. I didn't want to mess around with that. I didn't want to be abstract with that. I wanted to be very, very sure. And that was one of the things that, I requested the editor that, please take care of this, because the story is very clear in my mind, but sometimes I might.
while writing, yeah.
So the characters had already come in the first book. Of course, as the books are coming out, I am also growing up. My evolution is also there, and so and there's so much change happening all around us. As we speak, there's so much changing in our society. In our politically, and how what the kind of bombardment of information there is from all sectors. So inevitably those things do seep into your writing, and you know you want to address those issues, you want to talk about it. You want to comment that some things which don't make sense, and why are people not aware of that, or why are they not talking about it. So probably I write from also a place of anger. I feel that women don't want to address these things, and when people say, or women say specifically that, oh, I'm not interested in politics, and I'm like, why? It's affecting you every day much more than anybody else. So why would you not be invested in what's happening, and
True.
people are taking decisions on you every day, and if you choose to look the other way, they will do so, and then you will not have anywhere to go. So I think we
Absolutely.
are we're in a flux right now, and and that is why probably it shows in the in whatever I write, whether it's articles or essays or stories or short stories or poetry also. My frustration and my I think I write. very in a very cathartic way also, because sorry.
That's okay.
so, so yeah, so I think my writing, I think, reflects my state of mind primarily, especially the short stories. Long form, actually, since you are doing it for a extended period of time, you're editing it, and so you can kind of cut those parts out. You can kind of you know increase the flame or decrease the flame of the intensity. Um but I think I think I want to talk about things that
The current
was
issues, what's happening.
questions that I have in my mind, and yes, I think everybody should.
So, Harshali, tell us about your writing process because there are a lot of authors who have a kind of a schedule, a routine, some quirks. Some people write the moment they wake up in the morning without doing anything else. Some people are like the night owls. What is your writing habit look like? I already know the answer, but I want you to say that again.
Then I think I should let you answer it. But essentially, I think I am a deadline junkie. So and yes, you do know about it because every time we've had to collaborate or do something together. And the first question I always ask everybody is, "What's the deadline?" Because then I go backwards and want to send it well in time, which is maybe a day before the deadline ends.
And let me add the sentence which you used earlier, which I really like, that I write in frenzy. So, which I think that sometimes probably when as a writer you're so involved or so engaged with the characters that at times it may feel that the story is just gushing out of you and you can't really stop yourself from writing and finishing it. So that's essentially your writing process, which is basically writing in a frenzy and having the deadlines. And I'm sure that also helps you to finish your books one after the other and plan so many books ahead, which I found very fascinating about you, that you have like a really a long term writing plan, because often it is said that the best marketing for your first book is actually writing the second, and so
Oh,
on.
that's a
And you cannot really write 20 bad books. So so if you have written so if you have written like, if you want to finish the 9 books of the Haveli series, I'm sure you would have garnered a lot many faithful readers to you. So let me
from your
then ask you the next question. How has been your publishing journey? What kind of challenges did you face so far? And what would be your advice to aspiring writers who are somewhere in the middle or in the initial stages of their manuscripts, or who don't even know if they want to write a book someday? What would be your advice, or what has been your experience like in those stages, in those early starting up stages?
first thing is that every writer, even someone who's just starting out or thinking, everybody, I think, even authors who've written, okay, are one, two, even three books sold, um, should write somewhere and post it wherever they do their maximum writing. That why am I writing? For whom am I writing? Am I writing for myself? Is my aim to garner success? Um, and or is it money, or is it fame? So you need to figure out what you're writing for. What is your aim with this part of your life? If you're writing for yourself, as I am, everything else is a bonus. So it keeps you very grounded. And I'm not
Okay.
denying times when your books do well, or well enough, and you get a lot of appreciation, and we're all human. We feel, oh, I need to write this because this is in the market, or someone will say this to you. And there's this constant churn happening where there are bestsellers, and people are putting in so much money. So for me, that is my benchmark. I write for myself, and I have to stay true to that. As soon as you move from that, nothing is satisfactory. Nothing nothing makes you feel happy. That is what I've seen. um, for myself, I have done this. I have put that thing up on my computer. So whenever I start writing, I tell myself, okay, this is the story I want to write. And and I try to stay, because with my second book, very frankly, I'm telling you, and very candidly, that when I wrote the story, this is the story I wanted to tell. But there were doubts, because we have to live in a society. We are not isolated. We live with a family. We have so many people that we are answerable to. So there were doubts as to whether this is the story I should even send. So I wrote a completely different manuscript after this, but then when I gave it to the people that I trust, and they had read both the manuscripts, and very frankly, that's only my husband. So he said, why are you doing this? This is not the story you want to say. This is not the story you want to tell. So do what. And that was like this, snap. And I realized that this would be a mistake if you are not true to yourself.
True to the story. Yeah. To be
So
yourself.
I would say that is the one thing, the first thing that anybody and everybody should do, however many books you might be in, wherever you might be, that you need something to ground you. And I think for me, that has grounded me. Maybe it's something else for somebody else. So that is one thing. Obviously, reading, I can't stress that enough. And reading eclectically, as eclectically as possible, because and I can say that, and I'm telling you all this from experience, because I used to be attracted to a certain genre and not attracted
Mm.
to you. And I realized that I was being very, I was making boundaries where there was no requirement.
Mm. Restricting your ideas. Mm.
Yeah, it was not a decision, or it was not a self realization. It was because I was part of a lot of book clubs, and there, we had to read books which I would never have picked up on my own, very frankly. And because I did, I realized how important it is to be around people who read different things than you.
Mm.
Give your book to different people who can tell you their thoughts and their viewpoint. They may not essentially like your work, so you need to have that thick skin also, that to listen. So give it to people.
Criticism.
You can take that criticism, not exactly criticism, but certainly they'll tell you, okay, I didn't like this bit, or why is she constantly
Mm.
so it's we read what we are, I feel. And
Yes.
so a lot of people will read the book and will say, oh, uh, that why is she not taking a decision. But there are people who are in those situations, and who will say that, no, I relate to what the issue
Relatable.
she's going through, or the confusion that she's feeling. And we've all gone through those stages, where we are confused as to what we want to do, etc. So those kind of things. So I think it's just essentially learning and evolving with your writing. And you learn that it's better to let the white noise be. And when you start writing, then I tend to have blinders. Then I don't look at anything else. Then I just, as you very correctly remembered, that I write in a frenzy and bring everything that I want to say on paper. And as I always like to say, my mantra: begin in delight and end in wisdom. It's held me in good stead till date.
Great. So, what are you reading now, Harshali? You mentioned about the book clubs. Tell us the books that you have been reading in the past few months, or would generally recommend us.
So I read a couple of books. I'm reading a book by Gulzar right now, which is a conversation that he's having about his songs with an author. And so it's essentially poetry in long form. So
Hmm.
that's a very interesting book that I'm reading right now. Otherwise, I just finished a romance book, which was three novellas together, which again was very different forms of love, which is interesting to read. Then the last book that I really really liked was a man called Ove, and I'm forgetting the name. Caste, I think. Caste was a non-fiction book that I read. These are all the books that whichever it's so I have a long TBR, and I just pick up the first one from there and read. And inevitably, going out means buying a lot of books, and so they just keep getting added. So that's I just keep reading wherever and whenever I get the time. Anything goes. It's on my phone, so wherever I am, there's always something on. So I enjoy it
So
like
still
that.
a paperback person, or you enjoy reading on your phone and on Kindle?
I've tried to shift. I cannot deny because I can't carry a paperback every time. So there are times when you're sitting at the, you know,
Yes, absolutely.
and you can just open your phone. So I have the same books. So I have one book on my phone, which is on the Kindle, and then I have one book which is paperback, which is in the car. Then I have just next to my bedside. So I
Hmm.
prefer sticking to one book. If the story catches me, then that book is going everywhere with me. But but otherwise, I've tried to read 3 or 4 books at a time. I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would because I like to focus on one book. But I'm trying, because you only have so many hours in a day, and so trying to get in
That's what
as
I love about, yeah, so that's what I love about Kindle samples, that you can actually download a lot of samples and you can sample books for like
yeah,
the first 30 pages, and then if
yeah.
you like, you start reading them. So
Yeah, story is very interesting. It takes you a second to just download it and move on.
yeah,
You don't.
yeah,
Uh, but with paperback, it's completely. It takes you back. I think it's
more
more
involved. Yeah,
than anything else. It's the whole ambience of sitting with a cup
yes,
of coffee or tea or
yes,
whatever, drinking pleasure, and then
more
having
immersive.
having a nice time alone and all that. So certainly that has its own charm. I don't think that's going away from.
Yes,
And just
absolutely.
I think I love the reading of the book and then writing my name on it that I finished it and then putting it in my bookshelf. It just gives me certain pleasure that I don't think anything else does.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing the stories about the Haveli series and all your experiences with writing and life in general, Harshali. It was such a pleasure to talk to you again.
Yes,
And thank you so much. Have a
yes.
nice day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you,
Bye
Priyanka.
bye.
Bye.